The bike skidded on black ice. Amara's hands tightened on the handlebars as her delivery bag swung sideways, nearly throwing her into the gutter. She steadied herself with one hand while the other instinctively moved to her swollen belly, 7 months pregnant and still pedaling through Seoul's frozen streets at midnight because the rent was 3 weeks overdue and the hospital wanted payment up front for the delivery. Her phone buzzed against the handlebar mount. Another delivery request. She glanced at the payout and her breath caught. Triple the normal rate. For one delivery. She should have known better. The app was new, SwiftDrop Plus, and the interface looked cheap, like someone had thrown it together in a weekend. But the money was real. She checked. The payment would clear her hospital debt and buy her 2 more months in the apartment before her visa hearing. Amara accepted the job. The route took her away from the city center, up winding hillside roads where the streetlights grew sparse and the houses hid behind 12-foot gates. Her phone kept rerouting her, the GPS flickering and resetting every few minutes. By the time she reached the address, her fingers were numb inside her gloves and her lower back screamed with each pedal stroke. The Black Pine estate loomed ahead like something out of a nightmare. Security cameras swiveled to track her approach. 2 guards in black suits stepped out from a gatehouse, hands resting near concealed weapons. Amara stopped the bike. Every instinct told her to turn around. One of the guards spoke in Korean. She caught enough to understand the question. She held up the insulated delivery bag, her voice shaking. "I think there's been a mistake. I can cancel the order." "No mistake." The guard gestured toward the gate. It slid open with a mechanical groan that echoed through the winter air. Amara looked at her phone. The app showed the delivery as confirmed. Payment processing. If she left now, she'd get nothing. And the baby was due in 6 weeks. She pushed the bike forward, every nerve screaming at her to run. The mansion's front door opened before she could knock. A man in an expensive suit stood in the doorway, his eyes sharp and assessing. He studied her with the intensity of someone examining evidence at a crime scene. "You're late," he said in perfect English. "The app kept rerouting me. I'm sorry Open it." Amara blinked. "I'm sorry." "The package. Open it now." Her hands trembled as she unzipped the bag and pulled out a plain cardboard box. No labels. No markings. Just brown cardboard that felt heavier than it should. She set it on a side table and lifted the lid with shaking fingers. Inside were stacks of foreign currency, bundled tight with rubber bands. Euros. Dollars. And beneath them, nestled in tissue paper, a heavy gold signet ring smeared with something dark and dried. Blood. Amara stumbled backward, hand flying to her mouth. "I didn't know, I swear to God, I didn't know what was in there." "Who hired you?" The man's voice was ice. "No one. It was just an app notification, I don't know anything. Please, I just need the money for." Her voice rose with panic. Her breathing quickened. The room tilted. A sharp pain lanced through her abdomen. A contraction, too early but unmistakable. She doubled over, gasping, one hand braced against the wall. Footsteps echoed from deeper in the house. A man's voice, calm and cold as a winter lake. "Bring her inside." The world went dark before she could protest. When Amara woke, she was lying in a 4-poster bed in a room that smelled of cedar and expensive leather. An 4 drip hung from a stand beside her, the clear liquid slowly dripping into her arm. A medic in surgical scrubs checked her pulse without speaking, made a note on a clipboard, then left without making eye contact. She tried to sit up. Pain shot through her lower back and she fell back against the pillows with a gasp. "Don't move." The voice came from a chair by the window. Kwan Tae-rin sat perfectly still, dressed entirely in black, his hands folded in his lap. He looked like a man who could order someone's death and then finish his dinner without missing a bite. "Where am I?" Amara's throat was sandpaper dry. "Still in my house. Still breathing." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes never leaving her face. "I have one question for you. Answer truthfully, and you'll leave here alive." Amara's heart hammered against her ribs. She nodded, not trusting her voice. "Who sent you?" "I told your man already. I don't know. It was a delivery request on the app. I needed the money. That's all." You expect me to believe that? I don't care what you believe. I'm telling you the truth. Her voice broke. I'm 7 months pregnant. I work 3 jobs. I took a delivery because I need to eat. That's the whole story. Silence stretched between them like a tightrope. Tarin studied her face like he was reading a book written in a language he'd spent years learning to decode. What's your name? Amara Cole. Country of origin? Nigeria. I've been in Korea for 3 years on a work permit. Visa status? She hesitated, knowing how this would sound. Provisional. I have a hearing in 2 months. Something almost like amusement flickered across his face. Of course. He stood and crossed to the window, looking out at the snow-covered grounds. Someone went to great effort to send you here tonight. They chose you very carefully. Why would anyone choose me? I'm nobody. He turned back, and for the first time, she saw something in his eyes that might have been pity. Because you're vulnerable. Because you're foreign. Because if you disappeared tomorrow, no one with power would ask questions. His gaze dropped to her belly. And because you're pregnant. That detail matters most. Amara's breath caught in her throat. I don't understand. You weren't supposed to understand. You were supposed to deliver that package, I was supposed to react predictably, and you were supposed to die. Simple. Effective. He walked to the door. Someone will bring you food. Don't try to leave. Am I a prisoner? He glanced back, and now the pity was unmistakable. You are a pawn. Whether you become a prisoner depends on what I find when I dig deeper into who sent you here. The door locked behind him with a soft click that sounded like a death sentence. Hours passed in suffocating silence. A woman came with a tray of food, rice porridge, fruit, tea. She was older, maybe 50, with kind eyes and gray-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. I'm Sare, she said in soft, accented English. I manage this house. You should eat. The baby needs strength. Amara ate mechanically, tasting nothing. When Sare returned to collect the tray, Amara grabbed her wrist with desperate fingers. Please. I have to get out of here. I don't know what's happening, but I'm not part of whatever this is. I swear. I have a life. A job. An apartment. Sare's expression softened. She sat on the edge of the bed and gently extracted her wrist from Amara's grip. I know. I believe you. Then help me. I am helping you. By keeping you here. How is that helping? Because they're waiting for you out there. Sare's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. The people who sent you here. They're watching your apartment. Your workplace. Every place you might run to. If you leave now, you won't survive the night. Amara's blood turned to ice. Who are they? People who want Chairman Kwan dead. People who thought a pregnant foreign woman would be the perfect weapon. Sare stood, smoothing her skirt. Chairman Kwan is not your enemy. Not yet. But the people who sent you here? They already decided you were expendable. She left before Amara could ask what that meant. Sleep came in fitful bursts, haunted by nightmares of blood and snow. When morning light finally filtered through the heavy curtains, Amara felt like she hadn't slept at all. The door opened. Taerin entered, followed by the sharp-eyed man from the previous night. The man carried a tablet, which he held up for her to see. I'm Min Jae-ho, he said without preamble. The chairman's lieutenant. We ran your information through every database we have access to. He swiped through screens showing her photo, her passport information, her bank records. Your name appears in 3 separate immigration databases with conflicting entry dates. Your work permit was issued twice, once 6 months apart. The courier app you used was registered 4 days ago. No corporate history. No registered employees. No business license. Amara's stomach dropped. That's impossible. I filled out all the paperwork myself. Someone altered the records, Taerin interrupted. Someone with significant resources and technical expertise. They built an entire false digital footprint around you to make sure you'd be the one to deliver that package. Why? Her voice came out as barely a whisper. Taerin sat in the chair across from her bed. Because you're perfect bait. Pregnant. Foreign. Desperate. Vulnerable. If I had killed you on sight, which would have been the logical response to someone delivering evidence of my crimes, I would have looked brutal and unstable. My allies would have questioned my judgment. My enemies would have used it to justify moving against me. And if you let me go? They would have killed you within hours and made it look like I did it. Either way, I lose credibility. My organization fractures. My enemies move in and take everything I've built. He leaned forward. You weren't meant to survive this, Amara. You were meant to be a corpse that proved I was losing control. The words hit like a physical blow. She pressed both hands against her belly, feeling her daughter move beneath her palms. So what now? You kill me anyway? No. Because you're leverage they didn't expect me to keep. As long as you're alive and safe, their plan fails. They can't use your death against me if you're not dead. So I'm just, what? A chess piece you're holding onto? Taerin's expression didn't change. Yes. But a chess piece that stays alive is better than a dead pawn, isn't it? Jae-ho spoke up. We're working to identify who's behind this. We have suspicions, but no proof. Until we have proof and can eliminate the threat, you need to stay here. For how long? As long as it takes, Taerin said. Could be days. Could be weeks. Amara felt tears burning behind her eyes. I have a life. Bills to pay. A visa hearing. All of which will still be there when this is over. But only if you're alive to deal with them. Taerin stood. I'm not the villain in your story, Amara. I'm just the man trying to keep you from becoming a victim in someone else's. You're a crime lord. Yes. And the people who sent you here are worse. They were willing to murder you and your unborn child without a second thought. I, at least, am keeping you alive. He moved toward the door. Think about that difference. The door locked behind them. 3 days passed. Amara moved through them like a ghost, trapped in a luxurious prison. Sare brought her meals, clean clothes, prenatal vitamins. A doctor came to check on the baby, performing an ultrasound in eerie silence. Everything was done with professional efficiency and zero explanation. At night, she lay awake, listening to footsteps in distant corridors, doors opening and closing, muffled voices speaking rapid Korean. She was in the belly of something dark and violent, and she didn't know if she'd ever escape. On the 4th night, everything changed. Amara was sitting by the window, watching snow fall in the garden below, when she heard it. 2 sharp cracks in the distance. Gunfire. Her head snapped toward the door. The lights died. Emergency generators kicked in, bathing everything in hellish red. The door burst open. Jae-ho stood there, pistol in hand, face grim. With me. Now. What's happening? They're here. Move. He grabbed her arm and pulled her into the hallway. Alarms shrieked through the house. Men shouted in Korean. More gunfire, closer this time, the sharp reports echoing off marble floors. Jae-ho led her through a maze of corridors at a run. Guards rushed past, rifles ready, taking defensive positions. An explosion rocked the building. Amara stumbled, her pregnant belly throwing off her balance. Jae-ho caught her, kept her moving. Keep going. Don't stop. They reached a reinforced door. Jae-ho punched in a code with shaking fingers. The door slid open, revealing a stairwell leading down into darkness. Basement. There's a panic room. You'll be. Gunfire erupted directly behind them. Glass shattered. 2 figures in black tactical gear and masks rounded the corner, rifles raised. Jae-ho shoved Amara through the door and spun, returning fire. She froze on the stairs, watching him fight. One of the attackers went down. The other kept coming. Then Kwon Taerin appeared from a side corridor, moving with lethal precision. 2 shots. The second attacker dropped. Taerin grabbed Amara's wrist, his grip like iron. With me. Jae-ho said the basement. The basement's compromised. They have the codes. He pulled her back into the corridor, moving fast. They planned this. They know the layout. They ran through chaos. Smoke filled the air. Somewhere, someone was screaming. Amara's lungs burned. Her back ached. The baby pressed against her bladder with every jarring step. They reached what looked like a solid wall covered in bookshelves. Tarin pressed something and the entire section swung inward, revealing a narrow passage barely wide enough for one person. Go. Stay close. They moved through the walls of the mansion like rats in a maze. Amara's shoulders brushed both sides. Her breath came in panicked gasps. Behind them, the sounds of battle raged, gunfire, shouts, more explosions. How many are there? She managed to ask. Too many. Who sent them? A man called the broker. He's been waiting for an excuse to move against me. Tarin checked around a corner, gun raised. You were supposed to be that excuse. When I didn't kill you, he got impatient. They emerged into a garage. An armored SUV sat waiting, engine running. Sare sat in the driver's seat, knuckles white on the steering wheel. North exit's clear, she said, voice tight. 2 minutes, maybe less. Tarin practically threw Amara into the back seat. He slid in beside her. Go. Now. Sare floored it. The SUV crashed through a side gate, tires screaming on ice. Behind them, the Black Pine estate burned like a funeral pyre. Gunfire still echoed through the trees. Amara clutched her belly, tears streaming down her face. Oh God! Oh God! Breathe, Tarin said. Slow breaths. You're safe. Safe? People are dying back there. People made their choices. Including me. He looked out the rear window, jaw tight. One of my men stayed behind to hold them off. Kim insists. He has a wife. 2 daughters. His voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands were clenched into fists. He knew he wouldn't make it out. He stayed anyway. I'm sorry, Amara whispered. Don't be. He didn't die because of you. He died because of me. Because of the life I chose. Because this is what loyalty costs in my world. He turned to her. Remember that. When you think about who the villain is. They drove in silence, the only sound the hum of tires on wet pavement and Amara's ragged breathing. The safe house was small and nondescript, hidden in the countryside outside Seoul. Sari helped Amara inside while Tarin made phone calls, his voice low and dangerous as he spoke rapid Korean into his cell. Amara lay on a couch, her body trembling with shock and exhaustion. The contractions had stopped, but everything hurt. Sari checked her pulse, her blood pressure, felt her belly with gentle, experienced hands. You're all right. The baby's all right. Just stress. But you need to rest. I can't rest. I can't. Amara's voice broke. This isn't my life. This isn't supposed to be my life. Sare sat beside her, taking her hand. I know. But it is your life now. And you have to decide. Do you want to survive it, or do you want to give up? That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. But fair doesn't matter. Survival matters. Sare squeezed her hand. Your daughter needs you to survive. Tarin finished his call and crossed the room. He sat in a chair across from Amara, elbows on his knees, hands steepled. I need you to understand something, he said quietly. If you leave here, if you try to go back to your apartment, your job, your old life, they will find you within hours. They've proven tonight that they have resources, manpower, and absolutely no hesitation about killing anyone in their way. Then what do you want from me? Amara's voice was hollow. Nothing. I'm stating facts. You have 2 choices. You can leave, try to disappear on your own, and probably die. Or you can stay under my protection until we eliminate the threat. How long will that take? However long it takes. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. He leaned back. This isn't a negotiation, Amara. I'm not asking you to join my organization or swear loyalty or anything dramatic. I'm offering you protection because letting you die would be a waste and would give my enemies exactly what they want. So I'm just a strategic asset to you. Yes. But being a strategic asset that stays alive is better than being a moral stance that gets you killed. His eyes were hard. I won't pretend this is about kindness or compassion. It's about survival. Mine and yours. Our interests happen to align. Amara looked down at her hands. I didn't choose this. No one asks for this world, Tarin said quietly. But we survive it anyway. That's all any of us can do. He stood and walked out, leaving her alone with Sara. Days blurred into each other. Amara stayed in the safe house, trapped in a strange limbo between prisoner and protected. Sari was her constant companion, bringing meals, checking on the baby, talking quietly about nothing important. A doctor came twice a week, performing examinations in silence. Taerin appeared late at night, always exhausted, always distant. He never stayed long. Never explained where he'd been or what he'd been doing. But Amara noticed things. The way he winced when he sat down, like his ribs hurt. The bandage on his left hand that appeared one day. The dark circles under his eyes that got deeper each week. He was hunting. She knew that much. Hunting the people who'd used her as bait. One night, she woke from a nightmare and wandered into the kitchen for water. She found Taerin sitting at the small table with a cup of tea, staring at nothing. He didn't look up when she entered. Can't sleep? Bad dream. She poured herself water from the tap and sat across from him without asking permission. Do you ever sleep? Not much. Because of nightmares? Because of reality. He took a sip of tea. Nightmares end when you wake up. Reality doesn't. They sat in silence. Outside, winter wind howled against the windows. I used to think I understood the world, Amara said quietly. I thought if I worked hard enough, followed the rules, stayed out of trouble, I'd be safe. That good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. And now I know that's a fairy tale. The world doesn't care if you're good or bad. It just crushes whoever's convenient. Taerin looked at her properly for the first time in days. That's the most honest thing you've said since you got here. Does it get easier? Knowing that? No. You just get better at living with it. He finished his tea and stood. You should rest. The doctor says you're close. Any day now. Will you be here? When it happens? He stopped at the doorway. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, I'll make sure you're safe. That's not what I asked. He looked back, something shifting in his expression. Something almost human. Just, I'll be here. The storm hit 5 days later. Wind howled like a living thing. Rain turned to sleet, then to heavy snow. Power lines went down across the region. The safe house's generators kicked in, but the roads became impassable. Amara woke at 3 in the morning with a sharp, tearing pain low in her belly. Her water broke in a warm rush. Sorry. Her voice was high and panicked. It's happening. Sare appeared within seconds, already dressed, already moving with purpose. She helped Amara out of bed and into the living room, where medical supplies had been laid out for weeks in preparation. I'll call the doctor, Sare said calmly. Will he make it? Amara gasped through another contraction. Sare looked out at the storm, then back at Amara. I don't know. But I've delivered 3 babies in my life. You'll be all right. Taerin burst through the front door, snow in his hair, his coat soaked. What's happening? The baby's coming. For the first time since Amara had met him, Kwan Taerin looked genuinely shaken. The doctor. Can't get through. The roads are gone. Sare was already laying out towels, boiling water, checking supplies. We do this ourselves. Taerin stood frozen in the doorway, water dripping onto the floor. Don't just stand there, Amara snapped through gritted teeth. Either help or get out. He moved. He shed his coat, washed his hands, and knelt beside Sare, following her calm instructions without question. The crime lord who ordered executions and moved millions in illegal money listened to an older woman tell him how to support a woman in labor. The storm raged outside. Inside, time became meaningless. Amara labored for hours that felt like years. Sai guided her through each contraction with the steady voice of someone who'd done this before. Taerin stayed at her side, holding her hand when she needed it, staying silent when she didn't. At one point, Amara grabbed his wrist with desperate, crushing strength. If something happens to me, nothing will happen. Promise me you'll protect her. Promise. I promise. Swear it. On whatever you believe in. Swear you'll keep her safe. Taerin's jaw tightened. I swear on my father's grave, your daughter will be protected as long as I draw breath. One more push, Sare said. I can see the head. One more, Amara. Amara screamed. It tore from her throat, raw and primal. And then a baby's cry. Thin and reedy and perfect. Sare lifted the newborn, wiping her clean with quick, efficient movements. She wrapped the baby in a soft blanket and placed her in Amara's arms. The girl held it. 10 fingers, 10 toes, good lungs. Amara collapsed back against the pillows, tears streaming down her face. She looked down at her daughter, tiny and red-faced and furious at being born into a cold world. "Hi, baby," she whispered. "Hi, little one. I'm your mama. I'm here." The baby's cries quieted. She blinked up at Amara with unfocused, dark eyes. Taerin stood a few feet away, watching. Sa finished her work, cleaned up, and quietly excused herself to give them privacy. Amara looked up at him. "Do you want to hold her?" He hesitated. I don't know how." "Neither did I until 30 seconds ago." She shifted the baby carefully, offering her up. "Come on. You promised to protect her. Might as well meet her properly." Taerin approached like he was defusing a bomb. He took the baby with awkward, careful hands, cradling her against his chest. She was so small his hands looked enormous around her. The baby yawned, made a small sound, settled against him. "She likes you," Amara said softly. "She doesn't know any better. Maybe that's not a bad thing." They stood in silence, the only sounds the baby's soft breathing and the storm slowly dying outside. Dawn light began to creep through the windows, pale and clean. Taerin lowered his head close to the baby's. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. "You'll be safe. I swear it. Whatever it takes. Whoever I have to kill. You'll be safe." Amara felt something crack open in her chest. This man who lived in violence and darkness, who'd orchestrated God knows how many crimes, held her newborn daughter like she was made of spun glass. "What will you name her?" Taerin asked. Amara thought for a moment. "Zara. It means princess. Light. That's a good name. She deserves a good name. She deserves better than all of this. She'll have it." Taerin carefully handed Zara back to her mother. "I found the broker. 3 days ago. He's dead. So are the 6 men closest to him in the organization. The threat is neutralized." Amara's breath caught. "You killed them?" "Yes. All of them. Yes. Because of me. Because they tried to use you as a weapon against me. Because they were willing to murder you and your child without hesitation. Because they needed to learn that some lines can't be crossed." His voice was flat, matter-of-fact. "I'm not looking for your approval or your horror. I'm stating facts. You're safe now. Both of you. What happens now? Now you decide. I can get you new papers. A new identity. Money to start over somewhere far from here. Or you can stay in Korea under my protection until your visa situation is resolved. Your choice. Why would you do that? Because you're not my enemy. And because that little girl deserves a chance at a normal life." He moved toward the door. "Think about it. You don't have to decide today." "Taerin." He stopped, hand on the doorframe. "Thank you. For keeping us alive." He didn't turn around. "Don't thank me. I'm not a hero in this story. I'm just a man trying to survive the same as you." He left. Amara sat by the window as dawn broke fully, holding Zara against her chest. Snow had stopped falling. The world outside looked clean and new, all the ugliness buried under white. Sare brought her tea and breakfast. "How are you feeling?" "Like I just gave birth in the middle of a storm." "Fair." Sare smiled. "She's beautiful." "Your daughter." "She is. She really is." "What will you do? Will you stay or go?" Amara looked down at Zara's tiny face. "I don't know. Part of me wants to run as far and fast as I can. But another part..." "Another part what?" "Another part knows there's nowhere to run. Not really. Whatever's out there, whatever's waiting, it'll find me eventually. At least here, I know what the danger looks like. At least here, someone's willing to fight for us." That's wise thinking. Is it? Or is it just me being too tired and scared to start over? Maybe both. Maybe that's all right. Sare took the empty teacup. "Rest now. Tomorrow will come regardless." Better to face it with sleep than without. She left. Amara laid Zara in the bassinet Sarah had prepared weeks ago, watching her daughter sleep. So small. So vulnerable. So completely dependent on her mother to make the right choices. Outside, Terin stood in the snow, phone pressed to his ear. His voice drifted through the window, low and controlled. The matter is resolved. All loose ends are tied. We're secure for now. The pause. Yes, she's alive. The baby too. A girl. Another pause. I know. I'll deal with it when I deal with it. Right now, they're under my protection. That's final. He hung up and looked back at the house. Through the window, he could see Amara's silhouette, backlit by lamplight. He turned and walked into the melting snow. Inside, Amara whispered to her sleeping daughter. I don't know what comes next, little one. I don't know if we'll ever be truly safe. But we survived. Against everything, we survived. Zara slept on, unaware of the war that had raged around her birth. Unaware of the violent man who'd sworn to protect her. Unaware that her mother had been chosen by fate and delivered into darkness, only to find an unexpected shelter in the most unlikely place. The sun rose higher. The snow began to melt. And in that small safe house in the Korean countryside, 2 women and a baby girl breathed and slept and lived another day. For now, that was enough. For now, they were alive. And in a world as dark as theirs, being alive was its own kind of victory. If you enjoyed this story of survival, unexpected protection, and finding hope in the darkest places, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more intense, edge-of-your-seat stories that will keep you glued to the screen. Drop a comment below telling us what you think. Would you have trusted Terin in Amara's position? What would you have done differently? We read every comment and love hearing your thoughts. And if you want to see more stories about ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances, let us know what kind of story you'd like to hear next. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the only way out is through. Until next time.